I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to another episode of Old's Oscar Countdown. And this week I'm going to be reacting and giving my thoughts and takeaways from the SAG nominations that happened today and the DGA nominations, essentially going through the main categories, not, first-time director or stunts on the SAG side, the ones that affect ultimately the Oscars, and give my thoughts on what this means for the Academy Awards and how this kind of gives us an indication as to what's going to get nominated there, and ultimately kind of how to read these nominations to ultimately help you make the most accurate predictions. But if you're new to the channel, what we've been doing since October is breaking down the Oscars. I've covered every single category in a deep dive in their own video. We've talked about Golden Globes predictions, Critics' Choice Awards are coming up. Probably I'm going to do a video within the next couple of days on that. I know the award show was delayed because of the wildfires. Of course, we give our sympathies out to everyone out there in LA, that they're safe. So we'll see what happens there if the award show gets delayed, maybe for a week or whatnot. That video may happen, and if not, I definitely will have my Oscar nominations predictions video next Monday, because now all the kind of big award nominees are out. I guess we'll probably get PGA but within the next few days here, and that will ultimately give us all the big award shows to give us all the information that we need to predict the Oscars. And if you want to hear my thoughts on certain categories, feel free to use the timestamps in the description below. If you want to hear my thoughts on just supporting actor or just DGA, that will be down there, or just to skip this introduction part. But as always, I appreciate you guys leaving your comments down below, letting me know your thoughts, your predictions. What are your takeaways from this? Want to create a really fun Oscar-loving community like we have for the past few videos, getting lots of comments, so I really do appreciate that. So please do keep that up, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on some of these bonus episodes, and you get notified right away so you can make your adjustments and know if you should grab that 100 to 1 odds on Gold Derby or Awards Expert apps. But without further ado, let's jump into the SAG nominations and my thoughts on that, starting off with the Best Ensemble category. My thoughts generally are that this is going to be a very important category for the Oscars, particularly the winner. In years when we've had clear frontrunners, the SAG Ensemble win hasn't been that illustrative. But in years like 2019 or 2021, where we weren't really sure what the winner was going to be, SAG was very helpful, even going back to 2015 with Spotlight, or Coda winning, or Parasite winning. Those were kind of early bell marks that SAG told us were really popular movies that ended up winning the Oscar. And in this year, I think it's also a really unpredictable year. So one of the eventual winners here, whether it be Emilia Perez or Wicked or Conclave, I think will be a huge tell in terms of their potential chances at winning Best Picture, because they would have the kind of support of the actors behind them, the largest branch of the Academy. So the three nominees that were expected were Conclave, Wicked, and Emilia Perez. So they got in as expected, nothing to talk about there. Then the fourth and fifth slots went to Anora and A Complete Unknown. I think the Complete Unknown nomination indicates to us that the movie is strong. It did very well here at SAG, and even at DGA at a great day. And it gives us that assurance, at least my assurance, that it's definitely going to get nominated for Best Picture. That's about it. I still think Chalamet is going to get in. We'll talk about how later I think Edward Norton's going to get in. This maybe just shows a general support, so it could get in for like a surprise technical category, production design, sound, something like that. But for the most part, I don't think this is like, oh, is A Complete Unknown going to win Best Picture? No, but what it does tell us is guarantees that it's going to get nominated for Best Picture. So if you don't have it, definitely include it there. And then those final two spots, I would say, are going to go to The Substance, Sing Sing, or Real Pain, or Nickel Boys, and you can choose kind of any two out of that four, and I think it would be completely reasonable. And then the other nominee here that showed up was Anora, and I thought Anora was a huge winner in the SAG nominations. The fact that it got in for Ensemble, which wasn't predicted to, and the fact that Yura Borisov got nominated for Supporting Actor, it was a huge sign as well. Anora wasn't predicted to get in for Ensemble, just because it's not necessarily an obviously ensemble-y driven movie. And Yura Borisov was actually a surprise in a way to get nominated for Supporting Actor, even though he's been getting a bunch of other precursors, because SAG doesn't really like to nominate performances in different languages or foreign actors. They like actors who are SAG members or Hollywood movie stars. For example, Sandra Hüller last year for Anatomy of a Fall was a major actress contender. She didn't get in for SAG. So the fact that Yura Borisov got in for SAG indicates to me that, yes, Anora will have some international support, but it still is seen as, in the most part, as an American movie, and has the support of the actors by getting in for Ensemble and Yura Borisov, and then of course Mikey Madison. So Honora, a big win, getting in for the Ensemble, shows some sign of life for it in terms of the Best Picture race. And I think it's going to be a really interesting Best Picture race this year. I mean, there's a real situation where Brutalist wins for DGA, and then Conclave wins for SAG, and then maybe Nora wins for Critics' Choice, and then maybe Amelia Perez wins for Ensemble. Like, there's so many different options here in terms of what the winners could be going into Oscar night, that it makes for a really exciting race. But the one movie that I want to talk about just in the movie sense before we get into the acting categories that disappointed here was The Brutalist. And I think a lot of people coming out of the SAG nominations are going to think and talk about, oh, how does this affect the acting races? But I think we should keep in mind how brutal, pun intended, of a loss the Brutalist not getting into some of these categories was. Now, listen, it was never going to get in for Ensemble. I'm not, surprised by that fact. But it not getting in for Ensemble and not getting in for supporting actor and not getting in for supporting actress does concern me, because it's a manifestation of my fears for the movie back when I saw it in September at TIFF. And that was that the movie's maybe a little bit too emotionally withdrawn, that it's maybe going to be a movie that's more respected on a technical level, respected but maybe not loved. And the actors who love performances and love kind of big, emotional, over-the-top type of movies that are very emotionally resonant haven't really responded to this movie. And the fact that just simply the actors are the largest branch of the Academy, and the actors, based on SAG, didn't really like The Brutalist. No Ensemble, no Guy Pearce, no Felicity Jones. They may not have that support for Best Picture at the Oscars. So the fact that the largest branch of the Academy may not really like your movie that much, maybe respect it but don't love it, could really hurt it on the preferential ballot at the Oscars. It may win a BAFTA, it won a Golden Globe, it may win DGA, but is it the movie that is the most well-liked in such an unpredictable year? Will it get a lot of number 1 votes and then a lot of number 8 to 9 votes? I think that's likely. So that was a sneaky part of the SAG nominations. I was pretty disappointed with The Brutalist and kind of confirmed my suspicion that this was a movie that wasn't emotionally resonant enough to win Best Picture. Of course, no one knows right now, but I think after the Golden Globes, the odds switched heavily to The Brutalist. But after this, I would probably take a step back and go, if you don't have the actor support, will this be a movie like The Revenant or The Power of the Dog, more so than it is Parasite or Coda or Spotlight? It does seem in a way more like a Power of the Dog, more like a 1917 directing-based movies that are respected and are great on a technical level, but maybe lack some of that core emotion on a human level in a way that the acting type movies, let's say a Conclave or Amelia Perez or Honora, have. That's the way I'm kind of seeing the race right now, but SAG will definitely tell us a lot, particularly in terms of its winner. Now let's transition over into the acting categories. Briefly, we'll talk about the Best Actor category. Nothing really to talk about here. There was a thought that maybe Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice could get in. He didn't. So this 5 that got nominated at SAG for Best Actor, I think are going to get nominated at the Oscars. The same thing that happened last year. Okay, now my thoughts on the Best Actress category. I think in many ways this helped solidify the main contenders, but then what it didn't do was help us understand that 5th slot. So I think the main top 4 contenders that are probably going to get nominated at the Oscars: Demi Moore, The Substance; Cynthia Erivo, Wicked; Mikey Madison, Honora; and Carlos Sofia Gascon for Amelia Perez. But that 5th slot, who knows? The 5th slot here went to Pamela Anderson. So that's big. She got in at SAG, she got in at Golden Globes. Is it going to be her? Well, maybe, but she actually didn't even make the long list at BAFTA, so I'm worried that there's not a lot of international support for that performance. That's going to hurt things, particularly with we know how international the Academy has become in recent years. Not having that support, not even making the long list, hurts Pamela. And we usually see This Is the Last Showgirl is a typical kind of a SAG movie because the movie is about a performer and a comeback, and there's a kind of meta-narrative there with Pamela Anderson's character. So she's a contender. I think if you were to, make me forced to make a prediction right now, it probably would be Marianne Jean-Baptiste for Hard Truths, just because she's been winning a lot of critics prizes, a lot of smaller critics groups in terms of actually winning Best Actress. And we know that the Academy is starting to more and more every year align with more like traditional critics' tastes rather than their own tastes, or like the Golden Globes. They become very much interested in what the critics have to say. Of course, you also have Fernanda Torres, who won the Golden Globe, which gave her movie a lot of notoriety, and theoretically makes sense in the sense that the Academy has become more international. They should respect performance, in another language from an international movie. But she also didn't make the BAFTA long list. Why didn't she make the BAFTA long list if she's going to be seen as the international pick? In many ways, that tells us that actually there isn't a lot of support for her internationally. So it's tough to figure out that, and she didn't make Critics' Choice, and she didn't make, a SAG here, obviously, so that kind of hurts her. So that's a weird situation there. Angelina Jolie from Maria, I think, is pretty much out, losing out Globes, losing in SAG, not making BAFTA long list. She's out. Don't include her in your predictions. Nicole Kidman could be a real possible contender. Interestingly enough, if Nicole gets nominated for BAFTA, I think that will be a strong sign for her. I was expecting her to get nominated here at SAG. It didn't happen, so definitely she took a hit. But she's a past nominee who's well-liked. And I mentioned BAFTA because we know the BAFTA acting voting system is a little bit weird and different, where essentially there are two performances out of the 5 that are voted on by majority, which is to say the entire BAFTA voting academy. If they get enough votes, the kind of top 2 vote getters get in, and then the last 3 picks are chosen by a committee of about 10 people. So if we think about the top 2 picks, it's probably Mikey Madison and Demi Moore for the substance, and then the next 3 picks, because the committee is interested in having a diverse lineup, if Nicole Kidman gets in, a movie star who's already been nominated before, a white woman, over, let's say, another person of color, it would indicate to us that the BAFTA committee wants to nominate it because it has a strong sign of support, or they may want it, or theoretically Nicole Kidman could have been one of the top 2 nominee getters or vote getters. That's not likely, but it's kind of a weird roundabout way of saying if the committee who is interested in diversity doesn't go with a diverse pick in the case of Nicole Kidman for Baby Girl at BAFTAs, it would indicate to me that they're doing that because there's been an outsized support within the Brits and the British Academy to say, we really love Baby Girl, to want to get it nominated. They also shortlisted Harris Dickinson, so maybe there is support there for Baby Girl. Tough to say right now. But right now, SAG didn't help clear really anything up, so you can pick lots of different options for that final slot. Now my thoughts on the Best Supporting Actor category. I think a lot of people on surface level go, oh my God, look at all these snubs that happened. But actually, this category in particular helped me really clarify who the top contenders are. And I feel actually really good about my predictions after SAG here. And really, it's surprising because we get ourselves so locked into a set of contenders and we almost need to be, including myself, proven wrong multiple times before we go, okay, let me, go with like an Edward Norton or something like that. So if we look at the top contenders in terms of actors that I've gotten in everywhere, Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, BAFTA Longlist, and now SAG, there are 3 actors for the supporting actor category: Kieran Culkin, Yura Borisov, and Edward Norton. I think you'd be remiss not to include those 3 performances in your eventual Oscar 5 lineup. Then the next 2 slots, to me, I narrowed it down to pick 2 of the following 4 performances: Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice, Clarence Macklin in Sing Sing, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, or Denzel Washington in Gladiator 2. For me, the one that makes the most sense on paper, that would probably be in my 4th slot right now, would be Jeremy Strong. He got in everywhere except for Critics' Choice, which doesn't really matter. It's a critics group. We have industry award groups like BAFTA loving The Apprentice, shortlisting it for film and screenplay and Jeremy Strong. So they know that we have the international support for a movie like The Apprentice. And then the fact that Jeremy Strong also got in for SAG indicates that there's American support, and he got in at Golden Globes. So I don't really care that he missed out on Critics' Choice. All the signs, particularly the industry signs, point towards Jeremy Strong. For me, he's definitely one of my picks. So then you have to pick one out of the next 3 people. 3 people that I thought could definitely all get nominations. Now only one of them will. Guy Pearce, Denzel Washington, or Clarence Macklin. Denzel should have gotten in at SAG. I think they really love Denzel in particular at SAG, so the fact that he didn't get nominated, I think, is a disappointment for that movie. And Gladiator 2 isn't really a big Oscar contender above the line, and it's been multiple months now since the movie was released, so people maybe are forgetting about that performance. Then you have Clarence Macklin in Sing Sing, in which no one's really seen that movie, even though A24 is supposedly doing a wide release soon. It may be too late for that movie. And he didn't get in at Golden Globes and he didn't get in at SAG. So you're really going to bet on like critics groups aligning with the Oscars. So for me, the obvious choice for that fifth slot was Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. Of those movies, Sing Sing, Gladiator 2, and The Brutalist is definitely the most well-liked. We always see well-liked movies overperform on Oscar nominations morning. So why not Guy Pearce in The Brutalist? Well-respected actor, never been nominated before, a critical part of the movie, and also the more well-liked movie, and I think aligned to more of the sophisticated tastes of the Academy. So, Denzel was a disappointment here. Clarence Macklin, I wasn't predicting to get nominated, frankly, in this category because he's a non-professional actor. SAG usually likes to nominate movie stars and actors. Sing Sing, though, did underperform in Ensemble, and he did miss out on the Golden Globe, so I think he's probably on the outside. So supporting actor, even though there's a lot of snubs, I think the three of Edward Norton, Kieran Culkin, and Yuri Borisov, you have to predict. They've gotten in everywhere. And then the next two spots, you go, well, Jeremy Strong got in everywhere except for Critics' Choice, and he has international support and American support and a transformative performance. Okay, put him in. And then what about that fifth slot? You have to choose between performances in Sing Sing, Gladiator 2, or The Brutalist. I'm choosing The Brutalist, so I go with Guy Pearce, and that's my 5 right there. Really clarified things for me, and that's my main takeaway for the supporting actor category. Supporting actress was probably the craziest of the bunch, definitely had some major surprises, and unlike the other categories, really only confident in 2 out of the 5 picks. It seems like every year the supporting actress category is really unpredictable, but that's just the nature, I think, of the category and the types of movies that the Oscars like to reward. But the top 2 that are definitely getting in are Zoe Saldana and Ariana Grande. And then the rest of the potential options, you can choose any combination of. Of the 3 that SAG nominated, only Jamie Lee Curtis got in at the BAFTA long list, and only Danielle Deadwyler got in at Critics' Choice Awards, and then Monica Barbaro only got nominated at SAG. So they all kind of have their own weaknesses that they got in for SAG, that's their benefit, but they have some other weaknesses. So I have Ariana, I have Zoe, and then my next 2 picks are probably going to be still Isabella Rossellini for Conclave and Margaret Qualley for The Substance. Both of them, even though they missed out at SAG, got the Golden Globes, got Critics' Choice Awards, made the long list of BAFTA. They got in everywhere else except for SAG. So it has a little bit of a strength there. And they're both in 2 movies, The Substance and Conclave, that we expect to be well nominated at the Oscars. So those are my kind of top 4. And then I narrowed it down to, I'd say, probably 3 serious contenders for that final slot. For me, it would be Selena Gomez in Emilia Perez. She got in at Golden Globes. She got shortlisted at BAFTA. We know that the Oscars really do like multiple performances from the same movie. They didn't do it last year, but before that, they had done it multiple years in a row. 3 Billboards, The Favorite, The Irishman. So they like doing that. Maybe they'll do it again with Emilia Perez, a movie that has been doing very well at all of these awards groups, always overperforming. Maybe it overperforms on Oscar morning with Selena Gomez. Definitely a real consideration. Then there's Jamie Lee Curtis, who came out of nowhere. I didn't really consider her as a real contender, but she showed up here at SAG. That's big. We know she's a well-liked actress. She just won a couple of years ago for Everything Everywhere All at Once. She's active on social media, so she knows how to kind of campaign. She also showed up on the BAFTA long list, and this is crucial because Pamela Anderson, didn't show up on the BAFTA long list. If Jamie Lee Curtis didn't show up on the BAFTA long list and then got in here, you'd say, okay, SAG, they like The Last Showgirl. It's a kind of one-off, the same way like The Good Nurse was a one-off a couple of years ago. But that's not what happened. You have support from SAG for the movie The Last Showgirl. Pamela Anderson and Jamie Lee Curtis got in. And then on the BAFTA side, Pamela Anderson, the supposed standout of the movie, didn't get even shortlisted for Best Actress. But Jamie Lee Curtis, she did get shortlisted for Best Supporting Actress. So that indicates to us she has American support from SAG, and she has some international support at the very least, because she got shortlisted there. I know it kind of came out of nowhere, but a lot of the signs are kind of pointing towards Jamie Lee. I don't know if I'm going to have the courage to kind of go for it just because it kind of came out of nowhere. It's not a critically well-reviewed movie, but she's a very well-liked actress, and that may be enough for a nomination. And then the third contender here in this category would be Felicity Jones, who on paper should make sense. The Brutalist is a well-liked movie. She's a main character within the performance in the movie. These types of wife-type characters, you think of Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer last year, usually get nominated. They are well-liked. Even Felicity Jones in The Theory of Everything. But she didn't get in at Critics' Choice Awards. That was weird. She didn't get in for SAG. That's weird. She doesn't really, I know, have a lot of the kind of necessary precursors that you would expect her to have, which makes me a little bit cautious. Maybe she gets in at BAFTA and gives me a little bit more sign of support. But right now, she's kind of on the bubble. But really, you could choose Felicity Jones, Jamie Lee Curtis, or Selena Gomez. You could say maybe a Danielle Deadweiler. She's gotten this stuff before and then missed out for a movie like Till. That concerns me, and her movie's not that well liked in The Piano Lesson. And you could go with Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown, but since the SAG merged with AFTRA in 2013, I don't believe there has been a performance that just got in at SAG and then also got in for the Oscars, so that's unlikely. So it's really going to be an interesting category here for the Oscars. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below for this category as well. And now transitioning over into my thoughts on the Directors Guild nominations. They do first-time director and a couple different other categories, but I'm mostly interested in the feature lineup of 5 directors, those being Brady Corbett for The Brutalist, Sean Baker for Honora, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Edward Berger for Conclave, and Jacques Audiard for Amelia Perez. So when we think about the DGA nominations, what you have to keep in mind is there's at least one of these 5 people that are not going to get nominated at the Oscars. You can go back for the past 10 years. In the past 10 years, there have been 2 years where they got 3 out of the 5 correct with the Oscars. And then the other 8 years, there were exactly 4 out of the 5 correct. Not an average of 4 out of 5. Some years they get 5 out of 5 overlap. Some years they get 3. No, exactly 4 out of 5. So aside from a couple of years, in the past 10 years, every year, it's 4 out of the 5 directors that get nominated here get nominated at the Oscars. So if you just want to be boring, just take the DGA lineup, predict it for the Oscars, you'll probably do all right. But what I like to do is try to get 100% in my predictions. So I look at the lineup and I go, what is the director that got nominated here that won't get nominated at the Oscars? For me, that's obvious. That's James Mangold. He didn't get it at BAFTA long list for director. He didn't get it at Critics' Choice, who nominated a bunch. He didn't get Golden Globes, who nominated a bunch. He's the clear outlier, an American director making a kind of classically told story, well respected, although not super flashy maybe for the Academy. So he's out. I think that makes sense as, of the 5, the most obvious one to take out. The harder question now is who to put in. For me, the obvious answer is Coralie Farge for The Substance. Why is that? Because when we look at past years, the DGA lineup and the Oscars lineup, the person that always surprises is an international director or a director whose movie is in another language. Thomas Vinterberg edges out Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of Chicago 7. Ryusuke Hamaguchi edges out Denis Villeneuve for Dune. Even last year, you could say, Jonathan Glazer and Justine Triet edge out Alexander Payne and Greta Gerwig. It's always the international directors, movies in another language, or they're an actual international director. So who are the international directors this year? You have Coralie Farge, Payal Kapadia, or Mohamed Rasoulof. Well, Coralie Farge, even though her movie's in English, is a French director. Her past movie was in French. The movie premiered at Cannes. And the movie, The Substance, is a really well-liked, likely Best Picture nominee. So that makes the most sense, I think. Payal Kapadia and Mohamed Rasoulof, they don't really have any other potential nominees aside from international feature, and actually All We Imagine Is Light is not going to get nominated for international feature. And when we look at past years like the Thomas Vinterberg nomination or like the Paweł Pawlikowski nomination, or even like say the Ruben Austin nomination, Triangle of Sadness, we had some other groups like the movie. Dolly De Leon almost got nominated for supporting actress. Same thing with Paweł Pawlikowski. It wasn't a huge surprise he got in for Cold War because Cold War had a couple of industry group nominations for cinematography and things like that. All We Imagine Is Light and The Seed of the Sacred Fig haven't really been getting that. So of the international directors, the most obvious one is Coralie Farge. Okay, what about American directors? Well, the international directors always edge out the American directors, but theoretically, they can not go with Jim Mangold and go with Rommel Ross for Nickel Boys, right? Yeah, but then you look at the American directors and you go, John M. Chu, Wicked, Rommel Ross, Nickel Boys, Denis Villeneuve, Dune Part 2. Those aren't indie movies. Those are mainstream studio movies. MGM, Universal, Warner Brothers. These aren't the kind of indie American director type movies like The Brutalist doing it on his own on the side. It's big mainstream Hollywood type movies. So you could maybe make an argument for removing 3 out of the 5, let's say Edward Berger is removed out for Mel Ross, and then Jim Mangold is removed out for Coralie Farja, I wouldn't be mad at that, but right now I think I'm going to go with the obvious selection, which is take the DGA 5, remove one of them. Who are you going to remove? Jim Mangold. He makes the most sense because he's got nothing else and no other awards groups. And then who are you replacing? Coralie Farja. Why? She's definitely the strongest international director with the strongest movie in case of The Substance, and she's got a very distinct visual style and unique world building within the movie, so it makes sense there as well. But those are my thoughts on the SAG and DGA nominations. Stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. I'm not sure right now when I'm going to release and upload my video for the Critics' Choice Award predictions, just because that award show may be delayed. I was going to do that within the next couple days, but who knows now. But definitely sometime next week, probably Monday, I will release my predictions for what I think is going to get nominated at the Oscars. So we're at the very close end of things. So I appreciate you guys sticking around, and I'd love to hear your comments down below. But that's about it. Until next time, stay tuned.